Tale of the Mystical Mirror, an episode that tackles beauty. Standard, starring two girls, Laurel, who's the beautiful, popular girl, and Cindy, who's just your average chick. And they meet a witch who wants to enslave them for eternity. Betty Ann's going to be the storyteller today. I think the best storyteller in this Midnight Society, since her episodes are always scary. And this one is one of the scariest episodes we have seen so far. It starts off very girly and female-centric, but halfway through it takes a huge tone shift as they try to escape the clutches of this witch. But Betty Ann, who herself is just an average girl, she's not overly prissy like Sam or tomboyish like Kiki. She's right in the middle. She brings a makeup kit and says that she doesn't really like wearing makeup, but she has to do it because her family is going to take a family portrait and everyone has to look their best. And that people put too much importance on looks. She throws dust on the campfire and the story starts with a girl named Tanis that's being followed in the woods late at night. A witch's voice calling her over and over again until she comes to this clearing that has a bunch of crates on the floor where the witch keeps her victims, and then it cuts to the moon. This one was written by David Wieczorek, and unfortunately this is the only episode he will write. He wrote the movies Artificial Lies and Seeds of Doubt, and in 2004 My Brother's Keeper, so his credits are pretty minimal. But this is an excellent episode, and I wish he had done more, since he seems to not understand that he's supposed to be writing for a kid's television series. This is written just as a straight Masters of Horror episode. One of the darker tales from the crypts, minus the blood, of course. We then get introduced to our three main characters: Vicky, she's the Asian girl; Laurel, the beautiful one; and Cindy, the average one. Vicky worked with this girl we saw in the beginning at a beauty store called Alasian Beauty, and she's wondering where her friend disappeared to. This episode has quite a large cast, but it makes sense because this witch is going to try to pick them off one by one. So she's already got one of them, Tanis, and Vicky's going to be her next victim. The witch they're going to be all facing is Miss Valentine, who owns this Alasian beauty shop, and they leave hints that she's owned the shop for a very long time. Whenever horror series do that, you know what you're going to get. She's a ghost. She's a witch that's lived for centuries. So while at the beginning of this you can kind of figure out that Miss Valentine is the antagonist, you still don't know exactly what she's up to. What is she trying to do? Is she sucking the beauty from these young girls? Is she just keeping them kidnapped? Is she just taking them hostage? So it does keep you interested as the story unfolds. Girls spend the next 5 minutes or so doing their makeup and setting the scene of their different personalities. Vicky's more stuck up and temperamental. Cindy is jealous of both Laurel and Vicky because she feels like they think that they're better than she is. She's not as into makeup and boys as they are. It seems like the girls are supposed to be around 16. I mentioned before that I prefer the episodes of this series where the characters are 15, 16, 17, as opposed to the 11, 12, 13-year-olds we usually get. And this story wouldn't work if it was a bunch of 12-year-old girls sitting around talking about makeup and boys. It wouldn't make any sense. Miss Valentine explains that her family believes that beauty is a woman's most important thing. I don't think so. I think it's personality. Does that sound convincing? And picks out her victims based on their beauty. That's right. Miss Valentine doesn't just want anybody. She's going to go after Vicky and then Laurel, since she considers them the most beautiful. Miss Valentine takes Vicky to her house, shows her how rich she is, all these nice clothes that she has, and says that Vicky can have any of them if she just takes a drink from this cup, which is her way of poisoning her and putting her into this trance. He tells her that she's going to be beautiful forever, but we learn at the end that all she does is throw them out in the woods and put them in these crates. That's not beautiful. That's not fun. She's never mentioned that. So Vicky passes out, and we cut to Laurel and Cindy coming by Miss Valentine's house, since they were invited as well. Also, they're wondering where Vicky is. Miss Valentine immediately takes a liking to Laurel. Once again, she's the prettier one, and seems to basically ignore Cindy, which is actually a mistake because Cindy's a lot smarter. She's picking up that something's wrong with this house. They can't find their friend Vicky, and then Cindy sees Vicky's watch that she was looking for sitting on a nightstand and knows that Vicky must have been over here and something bad happened to her. Laurel the entire time is just looking in the mirror and doing her makeup. Ugh, so vain. So while the commentary in this episode is pretty obvious to not focus on your looks as much, I do also like the fact that they have the more normal girl be the smart one. Vicky and Laurel are just too impressed by money and clothes and beauty that they get sucked into Miss Valentine's trap, where Cindy actually is being smart, looking around the house going, this looks like a witch, this looks weird. And they have a great scene, I think a terrifying scene, especially if I saw this in the mid-90s as a kid, where she's walking up this staircase and she sees pictures of Miss Valentine from the 1920s, the 1950s, and then one where she's dressed in this black cloak, letting us know she really is the witch we thought she was the entire time. She uses this mirror that Miss Valentine gave her, and when she opens it, you can see someone's true form. So she holds it up to these pictures, and she sees Miss Valentine's true form is, well, she's hundreds of years old. She's an old lady. She's not beautiful at all. Miss Valentine is then very nice, even though she sees Cindy sneaking around. She doesn't want her anyway. She's too homely, so she just kindly tells her to leave. So really, Cindy could just leave Miss Valentine's house, go back to her own, and she'll be completely fine. But see, she has to save her friend. She knows Laurel is in Miss Valentine's snares. So she goes back to the house, yells and screams, and gets Laurel's attention, and they start running through the woods. And now Miss Valentine is in full witch mode. She's got the cloak, you get the spooky music, she chases them through the woods, and they come upon the scene we saw at the very beginning with all these people in cages that Miss Valentine has kidnapped. And we get a nice ending here where they are able to set them free, turning Miss Valentine's mirror on herself. So I think this episode is really great. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. It gets so much better as it goes on, but you see why they develop the characters at the beginning. You have to see their distinct personalities, how vanity hits each of them, and that the girl who seems like she'd been ignored the most at the beginning is the one who ends up saving everyone at the end. But I can't emphasize how creepy this episode is. Seeing this old lady makeup and spooky music as Miss Valentine changes back and forth, Cindy creeping throughout the house, not exactly knowing what the witch does with her victims. I was thinking maybe she would suck out their beauty. That seems to be something that happens a lot in horror movies. The old lady has to find victims to take their beauty so that she ends up staying beautiful forever. It's never explained that much what exactly she's doing with these people that she's kidnapped. But this is actually one that I'm just glad they focused more on action and tension than in doing a backstory. Because this is written by someone who only wrote one episode, David Walcherek, he doesn't do what DJ McHale does, where DJ McHale always has to give you a backstory. He will give you a 5-minute backstory, how this witch coven came to be, what their goals are, what they're going to do for the future, which is fine sometimes, but I prefer the ones that just focus a bit more on action. They lead your mind to think about what her ultimate goal is and everything. Not everything has to have a complete backstory. This would be one that after watching it as a kid, you could debate with your friends what was going to happen if Cindy didn't save Laurel. So I think this is a great episode, and will absolutely make my list of top 10 scariest of Are You Afraid of the Dark. Yet it sounds like it's going to be a fantasy episode. Mystical Mirror? That doesn't sound scary. Miss Valentine the Witch, played by Jane Heitmeyer. It was 35 years old when this came out, and is still acting, I think, today. Her last credit in 2026, the TV movie When I Said I Do. She was in the Total Recall TV series, another series in the 90s that I'd never heard of. Apparently it was a Canadian television show on Showtime. And she was Serena in the Nicolas Cage movie Snake Eyes. And she's absolutely perfect in this episode. She's cold throughout the entire thing. She does look beautiful. She just has that icy stare. You can tell immediately she's bad news. Character Cindy was played by Lexi Randall, who, like so many kid actors, just didn't make it out of the 90s. Her last credit was in 1999 with Sarah playing a tall Winter's End, a TV movie. And this was her second to last acting credit in Are You Afraid of the Dark. Before Are You Afraid of the Dark, she was in episodes of Designing Women and Skylark. What is she doing now? Who knows? Probably has a bunch of kids and lives in Idaho. That'd be my guess. And the most famous of these kid actors is Laurel, played by Laura Bertram. Yep, this face looks familiar. That's because she's been in a ton of stuff. Sci-fi series Andromeda as Trans Gemini for 110 episodes. Of course, the Canadian show Ready or Not. She was actually a main character in that, Amanda Zim. You've seen about half of these kid actors ended up going into Ready or Not. And she was actually in the reboot of Are You Afraid of the Dark in 2019. The very first episode is a story mother. Her last credit being in 2023, Blessings of Christmas. That's right, all roads lead to either voice acting or starring in Hallmark Christmas movies. Next up is episode 5, The Tale of Prisoner's Past, and also check out our playlist for the other series that we cover. We do every single episode of Monsters, Fear Itself, Black Mirror, Mystery Science Theater 3000, Twilight Zone, of course, Are You Afraid of the Dark. Thank you.